My sister called me on a Thursday evening, her voice dripping with that sugary sweetness she always used when she wanted something. But this time she wasn't asking, she was gloating. "I'm getting married tomorrow, Emmy. Isn't that exciting? Oh, and I drained your bank account, all $92,000. Consider it my wedding gift from you. Thanks so much. Bye." The line went dead before I could respond. I stood in my kitchen, phone still pressed to my ear, listening to the silence where my sister's voice had been. $92,000. 5 years of careful saving. Every bonus, every tax refund, every dollar I didn't spend on vacations or new clothes or anything beyond the essentials. Gone. Just like that. And do you know what I did? I laughed. Not a bitter laugh, not a hysterical one, a genuine, surprised laugh that echoed off my kitchen walls, because Linda had just made the biggest mistake of her life. She thought she was so clever. She thought I would crumble, cry, maybe beg her to return the money. She thought I would do what I always did, absorb the blow and move on. But Linda didn't know something crucial. She didn't know that her entire $45,000 dream wedding, every vendor, every flower, every canapé, was about to collapse, and I was the only person who could stop it. I'm glad you're here with me. Please like this video and listen to my story until the end, and let me know which city you're listening from. That way I can see how far my story has traveled. My name is Emily Carter, and at 35 years old, I thought I understood my family. I was a senior financial analyst at an investment firm in Charlotte, North Carolina, the kind of woman who checked her bank statements every Sunday morning and kept a spreadsheet tracking her savings goals. I lived alone in a modest apartment uptown, drove a sensible car, and had exactly one expensive habit: good coffee. Everything else went into savings. Everything else went toward my dream of buying my first home. A small craftsman in the Dilworth neighborhood had caught my eye 6 months ago. 3 bedrooms, a front porch, a backyard big enough for a garden. The asking price was $320,000, and I had finally saved enough for a proper down payment. $92,000, $47 to be exact. I knew that number by heart. Now, I stared at my banking app, watching the screen confirm what Linda had announced so casually. Savings account balance, $47.23. 3 separate withdrawals over the past week, $30,000, $35,000, $27,000, all routed to an account belonging to Linda M. Carter. I set my phone down carefully, like it might explode if I moved too fast. My hands weren't shaking. That surprised me. I thought they should be shaking, but instead I felt something cold and clear settle over me. The same focus I got when analyzing a complex financial report. Assess, analyze, act. That was my training. That was what I knew how to do. The how of it came back to me in fragments. 3 years ago, Linda had called me sobbing. "Lily's in the hospital, Emmy. High fever. They're running tests. I'm terrified. I can't access my bank account. Some security freeze. Can you add me as an authorized user on yours? Just temporarily, just until I can pay the hospital bills." I hadn't hesitated. Lily was my niece, 7 years old at the time, and I would have walked through fire for that child. I logged into my bank that same night and added Linda as an authorized user on my savings account. The emergency access was supposed to be temporary. The emergency itself turned out to be a low-grade fever treated with children's Tylenol. Lily was released the same afternoon, and Linda never removed herself from my account. I never thought to check. I never thought to remove her access myself, because she was my sister, because family trusted family, because I, as Linda had once texted to a friend, was an easy target. I'd seen that text message 6 months ago, accidentally, when I borrowed Linda's phone to take a photo of Lily at her birthday party. A notification had popped up from someone named Megan. "So, did you get the money from her yet?" And like a fool, I'd scrolled up. My sister is such an easy target. She always feels guilty about being more successful. She thinks being the good sister means being a doormat. I'd put the phone down, taken the photo, gone home, and quietly removed Linda from my checking account. But my savings account, the one with $92,000, I'd forgotten. one account, one oversight. That's all it took. My phone buzzed. A text from Mom. Your sister is so happy about the wedding. Don't you dare ruin this for her, Emmy. She deserves happiness after everything she's been through. I stared at the message. No hello, no how are you, no acknowledgement that I existed as anything other than a supporting character in Linda's life story. Just a command to stay in my lane, to not cause trouble, to be the good sister, the responsible one, the one who always understood. But here was the thing Mom didn't know. Here was the thing Linda didn't know. 6 months ago, when Linda got engaged to Jason Miller, she came to me with a request. She wanted a dream wedding. Magnolia Gardens venue, premium catering, live band, the works. Total budget, $45,000. The problem was, Linda had no money, maxed credit cards, no savings, a job she quit every 6 months, so she asked if I would be her financial guarantor for the vendor contracts. Please, Emmy, I'll pay you back from wedding gifts. Jason's family is wealthy. I just need someone to sign the contracts so the vendors will work with me. You know how these things are. Against my better judgment, I agreed. Every vendor contract, the venue, the caterer, the florist, the photographer, the DJ, all of them were in my name as guarantor. All deposits and payments flowed through an account I controlled. Linda had put my name on everything, told the vendors I was her silent investor, her generous sister, making up for years of being absent. She built her entire wedding on my signature, and now she had stolen my savings, thinking she'd taken everything from me. But she'd actually given me the kill switch. I did the math. $92,000 stolen from me, $45,000 wedding dependent on my authorization. Without my approval, not a single vendor would proceed. The venue wouldn't open its doors, the caterer wouldn't deliver the food, the florist wouldn't arrange a single rose. I picked up my phone, not to call Linda, not to beg or plead or ask why. I opened my contacts and found the number for First National Bank's fraud department. It was 8:47 p.m. on a Thursday night. The wedding was scheduled for Saturday at 4 p.m. That gave me approximately 40 hours. The automated system put me on hold, then transferred me, then put me on hold again. Finally, a human voice. First National Bank Fraud Department, how can I help you? My voice came out calm, controlled, almost pleasant. I need to report unauthorized transactions on my account, and I need to freeze all linked accounts immediately. Every single one. I looked at the photo on my desk while I waited for confirmation. Linda and me, arms around each other, ages 8 and 11, both smiling, both innocent, both believing we'd always be on the same side. I set the photo face down. I'm sorry, Linda, but you did this to yourself. The hold music played softly through my phone speaker while I waited for the bank's fraud department to process my request. I sat at my kitchen table, laptop open, coffee growing cold beside me. The apartment felt different now, charged with something I couldn't quite name. Outside my window, Charlotte's skyline glittered against the night sky. Ordinary people living ordinary lives. None of them knew that my world had just tilted on its axis. I found myself wondering, not for the first time, how we got here. When did my sister become someone who could do this? When did I become someone who let her? To understand that, you have to understand the Carter family. You have to understand how we were built. My father, Richard Carter, was an insurance adjuster who believed that peace at any price was better than conflict at any cost. He spent his career assessing damage and calculating settlements, and he brought that same energy home. Avoid the argument, smooth things over, write the check if it makes the problem go away. My mother, Diane Carter, had been a beauty queen in her youth. First runner-up for Miss North Carolina 1978. She never quite got over not winning, and she poured all her unfulfilled ambitions into her firstborn daughter, Linda. She was beautiful from the moment she arrived. Dark hair and green eyes, and a smile that made strangers stop on the street. I came along 3 years later, quieter, plainer, more interested in books than beauty pageants. From the beginning, we occupied different roles in the family story. Linda was the star, I was the stage crew. The hierarchy established itself early and never shifted. Linda's bedroom was the large one at the front of the house, pink walls and princess canopy and a closet full of clothes. Mine was the converted study at the back, practical and small. Mom called it cozy. Linda's birthday parties were elaborate productions with themes and catered food and professional photographers. She's sensitive. I stood there in that hallway, understanding for the first time that strong didn't mean admired. It meant she can handle being neglected. It meant we don't have to worry about her. It meant invisible. Linda's trajectory through life followed a predictable pattern. She was homecoming queen in high school, dated the quarterback, got written up in the local paper for her charity work, which consisted of one afternoon at a soup kitchen with a professional photographer present. I was on the honor roll, captain of the debate team, working part-time at a bookstore to save for college. At my graduation, Mom spent the entire dinner talking about Linda's new boyfriend. When Linda was 19, she crashed her car driving drunk after a party. No one was hurt, thankfully, but the car was totaled. Dad bought her a new one within a month. She learned her lesson, he said. At 16, I was still taking the bus to my job at the bookstore. When Linda dropped out of college after 2 semesters because it just wasn't for her, my parents nodded sympathetically and welcomed her back. When I earned a full scholarship to UN Charlotte and graduated with honors in finance, Mom asked if I could help Linda with her credit card bills. Linda's first marriage happened when she was 28. His name was Marcus Webb, a good man with a steady job in IT and a gentle disposition. He adored her. They met at a party, got engaged in 4 months, married in 8. I was the maid of honor, and when the wedding budget ran $15,000 over, I covered the difference. It's family, I told myself. That's what family does. The marriage lasted 3 years. By the end, Marcus looked like a man who had been hollowed out from the inside. Linda quit her job 6 months after the wedding to focus on being a wife, which meant shopping and spa days and what she called retail therapy. Marcus's credit cards maxed out one by one. When their daughter Lily was born, I hoped motherhood might ground my sister. Instead, Linda hired a nanny and resumed her spending. Marcus filed for divorce after discovering $40,000 in credit card debt Linda had hidden from him. But Linda was faster. She spun a story about financial abuse, about a controlling husband who hid money and monitored her every purchase. The family believed her. They always believed her. I paid for Linda's divorce lawyer. I paid for her apartment deposit after she moved out. I paid for Lily's clothes and school supplies when Linda said she was struggling. The total, over 2 years, came to roughly $25,000. It's my sister, I told myself. She's Lily's mother. What choice do I have? The fake emergency happened 3 years before this night. Linda called me sobbing, saying Lily was in the hospital with a high fever. She couldn't access her bank accounts due to some security freeze. She needed temporary access to mine to pay hospital bills. I didn't hesitate. Within an hour, Linda was an authorized user on my savings account. The emergency turned out to be a low-grade fever. Lily was home by dinner, and Linda never removed her access. I trusted her. She was my sister. What choice did I have? What I discovered later, in small amounts I almost didn't notice, was that Linda had been making withdrawals. 200 here, 400 there, always just under the threshold that would trigger an alert. Over 3 years, the total came to roughly $3,500. I noticed. I said nothing, because calling out family felt worse than losing money, because I didn't want to seem petty, because I was still, after everything, the strong one. 6 months ago, I saw the text messages on Linda's phone. Easy target, doormat, useful. I removed her from my checking account that night, but the savings account, the one with $92,000, I forgot. One oversight, one moment of incomplete action. That's all it took for my sister to steal my future. The hold music stopped. "Miss Carter, thank you for waiting." I straightened in my chair. "Yes, I'm here." We've frozen the savings account as requested. The linked vendor payment account has also been frozen pending investigation. Relief should have flooded through me. Instead, I felt only a cold readiness. All automatic payments scheduled for the next 72 hours have been suspended. Then the representative said something that made my blood run cold. "Miss Carter, there's something else you should know. When we reviewed the transaction pattern for the fraud report, we noticed something unusual. The first withdrawal from your account was made exactly a week ago, the same day your sister was added to a joint account with Jason Miller. It appears she gained access to his accounts on the same day she accessed yours." I sat very still. She didn't just steal from me. She's stealing from her fiancé, too. And nobody knew. Nobody but me. I didn't sleep that night. By the time Friday morning arrived, I had been awake for nearly 24 hours, running on coffee and something sharper than caffeine. Determination, maybe? Or fury, finally given permission to exist. I sat at my kitchen table with my laptop open, notes scattered across every available surface, the bank's fraud confirmation email glowing on my screen. Outside my window, Charlotte woke up like any other Friday morning. People heading to work, grabbing coffee, living their ordinary lives. For them, nothing had changed. For me, everything had. The clock on my laptop read 6:47 a.m. The wedding was scheduled tomorrow at 4 p.m. That gave me approximately 32 hours to decide what kind of person I wanted to be. The sister who forgives and forgets, who absorbs the blow and moves on, who keeps the peace at any cost, or the woman who finally, after 35 years, fights back. I picked up my phone and dialed Rachel Chen. Rachel and I had been friends from college, roommates freshman year, and we'd stayed close ever since. She was a corporate attorney now at a prestigious Charlotte firm, the kind of woman who wore power suits like armor and could dismantle an argument with surgical precision. She was also the only person in my life who had never liked Linda. "She's a user," Rachel had told me once, years ago. "I don't know how you can't see it." I hadn't wanted to see it then. I saw it now. The phone rang twice before a groggy voice answered. "Emmy, it's 7 in the morning on my day off. Someone better be dead." I almost laughed. "Not dead, but I might commit murder if you don't help me." There was a pause. Then Rachel's voice sharpened into full alertness. "I'm listening." I told her everything. Linda's phone call, the stolen $92,000, the frozen accounts, the wedding that depended entirely on my authorization, and the revelation from the bank that Linda had accessed Jason's accounts on the same day she accessed mine. When I finished, silence stretched across the line for a long moment. "She did what?" Rachel's voice came out flat with disbelief. "And there's more," I said. "I think she's also stealing from her fiancé." The silence lasted another 3 seconds. Then Rachel said, "I'm coming over. Don't do anything until I get there. And for the love of God, make more coffee." Rachel arrived at 8:30, looking put together despite the early hour. She carried her laptop bag and a legal pad, her eyes already scanning my scattered notes before she'd even sat down. "Okay," she said, setting up at my kitchen table like it was a war room. "Walk me through everything from the beginning. Don't leave anything out." So I did. Every document, every transaction record, every detail I'd assembled through the sleepless night. Rachel listened without interrupting, taking notes in her precise handwriting, her expression growing grimmer with each revelation. When I finished, she set down her pen and looked at me. Authorized user doesn't mean authorized to drain the account, she said. She had access. She didn't have permission to take $92,000. That's theft. Grand theft, actually, given the amount. You have grounds for criminal charges. Fraud, too, if she misrepresented herself to access those funds. And what about the wedding? I asked. The vendors? Rachel pulled my vendor contracts toward her, scanning each one with practiced efficiency. You signed as guarantor on all of these. You're not just the payer, you're the contractual party. Her eyes met mine. Without your authorization, these vendors can't proceed. Legally, you can halt every single payment. The words settled over me like armor. I had suspected as much, but hearing it from an attorney made it real. Linda had built her dream wedding on my signature, and I could tear it down with a phone call. Rachel, I said slowly, if I freeze everything, the wedding collapses. My family will blame me. Rachel's expression softened slightly. They'll blame you anyway. They always do. Then let's make sure you're protected when they do. We spent the next hour building a strategy. Step 1, confirm all vendor contracts were solely in my name. Step 2, issue formal stop payment orders to each vendor. Step 3, document everything for potential legal action. Step 4, decide whether to contact Jason. That last part was the hardest. He's about to marry a woman who's stealing from him, Rachel said. Doesn't he deserve to know? I hesitated. I've never even met him. Maybe he already knows. Maybe he's part of it. Rachel shook her head. Or maybe he's another victim just like you. I thought about Marcus, Linda's first husband, the man she painted as financially abusive when the truth was the opposite. He hadn't known, not until it was too late. By then, his credit was destroyed, his reputation shattered, his custody of Lily reduced to weekends. If someone had warned him, maybe things would have been different. I'll freeze the wedding, I decided. If Jason reaches out, I'll tell him the truth, but I'm not going to hunt him down. I have enough to deal with right now. Rachel nodded. Fair enough for now. The vendor calls began at 9 a.m. Magnolia Gardens, the wedding venue, answered on the second ring. Good morning, this is Patricia speaking. How can I help you? I took a breath. This is Emily Carter. I'm the guarantor on the Carter-Miller wedding scheduled for tomorrow. I need to verify the payment status and discuss the contract terms. Patricia's voice warmed immediately. Oh yes, Miss Carter, your sister speaks so highly of you. She's talked about how generous you've been. My stomach tightened. Has she? What exactly has she said? Well, Patricia continued cheerfully, she calls you your silent investor. She said you insisted on funding the wedding as a gift because you felt guilty about something, not being supportive enough during her divorce, I think she said. I closed my eyes, letting the full weight of Linda's deception wash over me. She hadn't just stolen my money, she'd constructed an entire narrative to justify it. In her story, I was the guilty one, the absent sister trying to make amends. She'd made me complicit in my own robbery. That's not accurate, I said, keeping my voice steady. I need to issue a stop payment on the remaining balance. Please don't proceed with any setup until you hear from me directly. There was a pause. Miss Carter, the wedding is tomorrow. I'm aware. The pattern repeated with each call. Belmont Catering had a $15,000 contract with $7,000 still due. Your sister said you volunteered to pay because you couldn't attend the wedding yourself, the manager told me. She said you were too busy with work but wanted to contribute. I had said no such thing. I issued the stop payment. Flourish Florals, $4,500 total. Your sister was so grateful, the florist said. She told me you two had finally reconciled after years of being estranged. We had never been estranged. We had never reconciled, because there had been nothing to reconcile from, at least nothing Linda would ever admit to. I froze the remaining $2,500. By noon, I had contacted every vendor, DJ, photographer, hair and makeup, transportation. Each one had a different story, a different version of why Emily Carter was so generously funding her sister's wedding. In one version, I was making up for missing Linda's first wedding. In another, I was the wealthy finance sister who wanted to treat Linda like a princess. In yet another, I was the family's unofficial wedding planner who had insisted on handling all the details. Not a single story was true, but they all painted the same picture. Linda had built a fantasy world where she was the beloved bride, and I was the supporting character, so eager to please that I would pay any price for her approval. She had weaponized my reputation for responsibility against me. Rachel compiled the notes from each call. "She didn't just steal your money," Rachel said quietly. "She stole your reputation. She made you the villain in a story where you're actually the victim." I stared at the list of vendors, the totals, the elaborate web of lies my sister had spun. "She's been doing this our whole lives," I said, "making herself the heroine of every story." Rachel's jaw tightened. Not anymore. By 4 p.m., every vendor had been notified. Magnolia Gardens would not open its doors, Belmont Catering would not deliver food, Flourish Florals would not arrange a single rose, the DJ would not play music, the photographer would not take pictures. 150 guests would arrive tomorrow to find nothing. Linda's $45,000 dream wedding was now frozen solid, and she had no idea. Rachel ordered takeout and forced me to eat. "You did the right thing," she said. I chewed without tasting. "Then why do I feel like I just detonated a bomb?" "Because you did," Rachel replied. "But it was a bomb she built. You just lit the fuse." My phone had been silent all day. No calls from Linda, no texts from my parents. Linda probably thought I was somewhere crying, paralyzed by her betrayal, too weak to fight back. She was about to learn otherwise. At 8:47 p.m., my phone finally rang. Linda flashed across the screen. Rachel and I both stared at it. "She knows," Rachel said. I picked up the phone, but didn't speak. I just waited. And then I heard my sister's voice, no longer sugary sweet, no longer triumphant, shaking, high-pitched, panicked. "What did you do?" I said, "Nothing." Her voice rose to a scream. "What did you do? The venue called. The caterer called. They all called. They said the payments are frozen. They said you froze them." I let the silence stretch for one more moment. Then I spoke. My voice calm, controlled, almost pleasant. "You stole $92,000 from me, Linda. Did you really think there wouldn't be consequences?" The line went silent. When Linda spoke again, her voice had changed. Not panicked anymore. Cold. Dangerous. "You have no idea what you've just started." I woke on Saturday morning to sunlight streaming through my apartment windows. For one brief, disoriented moment, I forgot what day it was. Then reality crashed back, and I remembered everything. It was my sister's wedding day. The wedding that no longer existed. Rachel was asleep in the armchair across from me, her laptop still balanced on her knees. We had both passed out sometime after midnight, too exhausted to make it to actual beds. I reached for my phone on the coffee table and felt my stomach clench. 14 missed calls from Linda, 6 from Mom, 3 from numbers I didn't recognize, a cascade of text messages, each one more frantic than the last. Linda at 2:47 a.m., "Call me back now." Linda at 3:15 a.m., "I swear to God, Emily, if you don't fix this." Linda at 5:02 a.m., "You're making the biggest mistake of your life." Mom at 6:30 a.m., "What have you done? Call me immediately." I scrolled through them all, reading but not responding. Then I set the phone down, walked to my kitchen, and made coffee. The morning was beautiful. Perfect wedding weather, actually. Her voice rose to a scream. "What did you do? The venue called. The caterer called. They all called. They said the payments are frozen. They said you froze them." I let the silence stretch for one more moment. Then I spoke, my voice calm, controlled, almost pleasant. You stole $92,000 from me, Linda. Did you really think there wouldn't be consequences? The line went silent. When Linda spoke again, her voice had changed. Not panicked anymore. Cold. Dangerous. You have no idea what you've just started. I woke on Saturday morning to sunlight streaming through my apartment windows. For one brief, disoriented moment, I forgot what day it was. Then reality crashed back, and I remembered everything. It was my sister's wedding day. The wedding that no longer existed. Rachel was asleep in the armchair across from me, her laptop still balanced on her knees. We had both passed out sometime after midnight, too exhausted to make it to actual beds. I reached for my phone on the coffee table and felt my stomach clench. 14 missed calls from Linda, 6 from Mom, 3 from numbers I didn't recognize, a cascade of text messages, each one more frantic than the last. Linda, at 2:47 a.m. Call me back now. Linda, at 3:15 a.m. I swear to God, Emily, if you don't fix this. Linda, at 5:02 a.m. You're making the biggest mistake of your life. Mom, at 6:30 a.m. What have you done? Call me immediately. I scrolled through them all, reading but not responding. Then I set the phone down, walked to my kitchen, and made coffee. The morning was beautiful. Perfect wedding weather, actually. Clear blue sky, gentle October warmth, the kind of day that photographers dream about. Somewhere across town, 150 people were probably putting on their best clothes, checking their hair in mirrors, looking forward to champagne and cake. They had no idea what they were walking into. I imagined the scene unfolding at Magnolia Gardens. The venue should have been bustling with setup crews by now. Florists arranging centerpieces, caterers preparing appetizers, the DJ testing sound equipment. Instead, the gates would be locked, the parking lot empty, the beautiful gardens silent. Linda would arrive in her car, wedding dress hanging in its garment bag, expecting to step into her fairy tale. She would find nothing but a coordinator with an apologetic face and devastating news. My phone buzzed. A text from a Charlotte number I didn't recognize. Miss Carter, this is Patricia from Magnolia Gardens. The bride has arrived and is extremely distressed. She insists there's been a mistake. Please advise. I typed back, there's no mistake, the stop payment stands. Please direct all inquiries to my attorney. I included Rachel's contact information, then silenced my phone. I had said what needed to be said. Now I would wait. Rachel stirred up around 10 o'clock in the morning, blinking against the morning light. She saw my face and immediately straightened. What happened? Nothing yet, but it's about to. By 3:30 in the afternoon, my phone had become a chronicle of disaster. The texts came from friends of friends, from distant relatives, from people I barely knew who had somehow gotten my number. Did you hear about Linda's wedding? Everything's canceled. The venue is locked, there's no food, people are just standing in the parking lot in their fancy clothes with nowhere to go. One text included a photo, grainy and distant, showing a crowd of confused guests clustered near the Magnolia Gardens entrance, and there, at the center of it all, a flash of white. Linda, still in her street clothes, gesturing wildly at someone I couldn't make out. Then came the text that stopped me cold. Jason, Linda's fiancé, the man I had never met. His message was brief and bewildered. Is this Emily Carter? I'm Jason Miller, Linda's fiancé. Or I was, as of this morning. I need to understand what's happening. Linda says you sabotaged the wedding out of jealousy, but something doesn't add up. The vendors keep saying you were paying for everything, that you were the guarantor on all the contracts. But Linda told me she was paying from her savings. She told me she had $40,000 saved. I stared at the screen for a long moment, then I typed back, Linda has no savings. She has $28,000 in credit card debt, and she stole $92,000 from my bank account this week to pay for this wedding. I'm sorry you're finding out this way. The response came quickly. I think I need to hear the full story. Before I could reply, my phone rang. Not Jason. Mom. I let it ring 3 times, bracing myself, then answered. How could you do this to your sister? Mom's voice was sharp enough to draw blood. On her wedding day, Emily. Her wedding day. I kept my voice even. Did Linda tell you what she did? Did she tell you she stole $92,000 from me? Mom didn't pause. That's between you two. You didn't have to ruin her wedding over money. Over money? I repeated, my composure cracking for the first time. She stole my life savings, everything I had. That's not a family disagreement. That's a crime. Family doesn't press charges against family, Mom snapped. You fix this, Emily. Whatever it takes, you fix it right now.